Hi, my name is Emily, and today we're going to be painting a fun little floral postcard. So these are the supplies you're going to need to get started. You're going to need a piece of watercolor paper. I'm painting on a 4x6 inch piece, which I think is the perfect size for a fun little quick painting. You're also going to need some paints and a place to mix them. If you don't have a palette like this, you can just use a yogurt lid or something else that you have on hand. You're also going to need some water, a paper towel. It's kind of nice to have a piece of scrap paper on hand to test colors if you need to. You're also going to need a pencil and a paintbrush. I'm using a round brush today. This one is a size 8, but any round brush that's about the same size will work. So let's hop right into it. First, I'm just going to kind of lay down some little guidelines so that I know kind of where I'm painting. So I think I'm going to do a little floral bouquet. So I'm just going to draw a few lines that are kind of curved. I don't want them to be perfectly straight. So I'm going to draw one line right here, and then one line right here, maybe another line kind of coming off this way. And then I think I'm going to have some sort of flower or something right here. So I'm going to draw, let's see, what kind of flower do I want here? I think I'm going to put kind of a circular flower here. So I'm just going to draw kind of an oval for the center. And then if I want to, I can also put kind of a circle around it, but sometimes I like to just leave it with just the oval for the center. And then up here, I think I'm going to do another kind of one of these flowers as like the main flower. I'm going to come down and make sure I have enough space away from the edge. And I'm going to draw another little circle. And I want this one to be a little bit bigger. So I might draw kind of a general, like just give me an idea of how big I want to make it. And then over here, I think this one is going to be maybe like some lavender. I don't think I need to sketch it, but I'm just going to keep that in mind. And then over here, I'm going to do kind of a different, more like a peony or tulip or something. So I think that's good. That gives me an idea of where I'm putting everything. So let's kind of start. So I'm going to start with these two flowers, and I think I'm going to make them a bluish color. I think I'm gonna make them a blue, like a whitish color. So I'm gonna use, I like when you're painting white, you want to just do a really light color. So I'm gonna mix a little bit of blue and a little bit of brown to make kind of a really light gray. You can see it's barely any color at all. But also, if you want just a really light color, you can add lots of water and do this with any color flower. I'm gonna add a little bit more color. Whoops, too much. Just so that I can show you and have it be a little bit more visible. Okay, there we go. My baby's asleep on me, so you might hear her grunting a little bit. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to start with my petal that's furthest away from me. And I'm going to come in here and make my petals kind of a heartish shape. Now the nice part about working with a round paintbrush is it kind of gives you a little bit of a shape to work with. You can see it's really pointy on the tip, and then it's a little bit bigger towards kind of the belly of the brush. So when you're painting, you can get a lot of different effects with the same brush. So if I hold my brush straight up and down, I can get a really thin line. But if I push harder, I can get a thicker line. And you probably can't see that very well, but you get the idea. So I'm going to use my brush to kind of create that shape by starting, my petal is a little bit thinner towards the center, and then it gets thicker as I get towards the outside. So I'm going to kind of use my brush to advantage and kind of use the point of my brush right here and the belly of my brush as I get out a little bit more. I'm going to do a couple strokes. So this first petal is more of kind of like a really wide heart shape, like a heart you would draw when you were in kindergarten. Yeah, that's what you're going for. And then over on this side, I'm going to kind of curve it in so it frames around this first petal. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, using the shape of my brush to kind of help me. And I want to drag my paint back kind of towards the center so that it's darker in the center and lighter towards the outside. Then I'm going to do a couple other petals, and these ones are a little bit more turned away from me. So I'm just going to have them kind of be elongated oval shapes, because you can't see, because the angle, you're not going to be able to see them because they're going to be tipped away from you. Perfect. Then I'm just going to do the same thing for this other flower. So further away, I've got a really dark pencil mark right here. So I'm just going to erase it because I don't want to be able to see it through my paints. So I'm going to erase that a little bit. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to kind of do the same. I'm just going to do the same thing. Do kind of a heart-shaped petal on kind of the top, the furthest away from me. And then a couple petals that are still kind of heart-shaped, but curving a little bit more. Like so. And then two petals down at the bottom that are kind of facing away from me. Perfect. All right, I think I'm gonna do my lavender next. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of blue. Whoa, that's a lot of blue. A little bit of blue, a little bit of pink. Whoa, that's a lot of pink. Whoops. Or like a red. I'm gonna make it purple. That's a really bright purple. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue because I want it to be a little bit duller. And that's still really bright. So I'm gonna add a little bit of brown to it. You could also add a little bit of yellow if you don't have brown, because it's the opposite color, so it'll dusty it up just a little bit, which I like. All right. I kind of washed away most of my paint, so we're just gonna come back a little bit and remix it. Oh, it's a process to get the color you want sometimes. There we go. Okay, so for this lavender, I'm gonna tip my paper a little bit just to make it a little bit easier for me. And I think I'm gonna have my lavender kind of come up and behind this big pat flower. Okay, I had to step away for just a second to put my baby back to sleep. She's very clingy, so she likes to sleep on me, which makes it a little bit hard to do anything but hold her. Not complaining, I'll take it. So for this lavender, I'm just gonna start by kind of doing a short brush stroke, and this is gonna be the end. I'm gonna have my lavender kind of come up and behind my big flower. I'm gonna wanna be very careful because mine's a little bit dry because I had to step away, but I don't want it to touch and accidentally get purple everywhere. So I'm just gonna be kind of, as I'm painting, I'm leaving really tiny gaps so that the water doesn't touch each other, the paint and the water that's on the paper, and keeps it kind of, and then I'm just gonna draw some short little petals that kind of come down to about right here. And then I think I'm gonna do another little sprout of lavender, and this one I'm gonna make just a little bit more blue. I'm calling it lavender. That's pretty pink to be lavender. So, but it's a long, pretty flower that kind of looks like lavender. It's maybe a little bit mystical. That's fine. And I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna do a shorter little stalk right next to it, just to add some more interest. I'm gonna draw a line down it, kind of for the stem. And again, you're seeing I'm doing really short little brush strokes and doing lots of little ones kind of all over. we go. And I have my purple. I'm gonna come around this flower too. I think that its stem is a little bit purpley, so we're gonna do a layer of purple, and then I'll probably go back in with green. I'm just gonna draw its stem. All right, so there we are for now. And then we're gonna do our last flower. And this one, I think I'm just gonna do a really pretty pink color. I had a little bit too much pink on my brush, so I rinsed it off. But I kind of want it to be a little bit corally. So I'm gonna add just a touch of yellow to it. So it makes this really pretty pinky coral color. Okay, I'm gonna start with kind of a middle petal. I'm gonna use my brush shape again and kind of do, again, another one of these like jagged heart-shaped petals kind of thing. And then I'm gonna dry off my brush just a little bit because it's pretty wet. My paint mix is pretty wet too, which is good because it's makes it light, but I also want it to, I don't want it to pool on my paper quite so much for these next two petals. So then I'm going to take and do two other petals on either side that kind of curve in, and I'm going to add a little bit more paint to this bottom part of this one, and kind of another petal on this other side. It's okay if the petals kind of blend together. I'm going to do those three. Then I'm going to come up to the top, and I'm just going to do kind of a wavy line that kind of looks like it's another petal that you can see just barely over the top of the other ones. Just like that. All right, then I think next I'm going to come in and kind of do the centers of all of my flowers. So I'm going to take some yellow. I'm going to actually let this purpley color mix into my yellow to make it a little bit darker, less vibrant. I'm just going to come dab it into the center right here. And I'm going to I like to leave a white space in the very middle because I think that adds a little bit interest. And then I'm just going to come, and I'm going to do some little dots kind of on the outside. And I'm going to use just the very, very, very tip of my brush to do some like connecting lines that you can just barely see. And maybe they're a little bit broken. Then I'm going to come down here and do the same thing on this flower. Just doing dots because I think it adds in a nice texture that kind of looks like the pollen that is in flowers. And I'm going to dry my brush off just a little bit to make it a little bit easier to do these thin connecting dots. I'm going to add some more color to this. All right. And then I think I'm going to do my stems. So I'm going to take some blue and add it to this yellow. Need a little bit more yellow. Gotta be careful. I like to grab too much color today. My paints are very eager to jump out of their palette. Okay, I think that's a nice green. I'm just gonna come and add in my stems. And I'm gonna skip over this flower for this stem because I don't want to go through my beautiful petals. I'm gonna come in and add a little bit of green to the pretend lavender stems, just so that they're not super purpley. Maybe kind of even just go all the way up, but break it up a little bit so it looks like you can't see all of the stem through the petals that are on the flower. And then I'm gonna come give this one a stem. If you want, you can go in and give it just a little bit of variation by adding a little bit more blue before you do one stem, a little bit more yellow before you do a different one. So I'm gonna add a little bit of blue for this one. And I'm gonna kind of make it so you can see the part where the stem connects to this flower. I'm gonna leave some white space. Then I'm gonna come down. And this stem is gonna curve quite a bit. Maybe I'll dab in a little bit of this to some of the other stems for kind of some shadow. I feel like I need something else over here, so I might do just a quick little bud, maybe? I don't know, that might be a little awkward. I feel like it does need another little pink thing right here though. So I'm gonna just kind of come around this flower and paint a little like that. And then I'll come in with my pink, being very careful not to touch the green. And add just like a suggestion of some petals ready to burst through. All right, and then to finish things off, I'm gonna just add some big fluffy leaves. Using my shape again to kind of, the shape of my brush again to do this. And dabbing in some more green if I need some more shadows. Just to kind of finish out the painting. And you might not see every leaf where it comes from. So we're just gonna add them in here. I feel like this needs a little bit of, maybe there's kind of a green stem that comes behind this lavender. There we go. All right, I think we're gonna call that good. You can also paint a little, I'm gonna take a dark pink, purpley color and give it a bow right here. Just so that it looks like it's kind of all tied together. Some finishing touches. I'm going to come in and add just a little bit more grayish white color to these petals. Just some little lines just to add some shadow. And a little bit more pink down here. Just kind of adding in some extra little shadowy detail parts. Ooh, and I might use, I have this like sparkly paint, and I might come in here, it's kind of purpley. So I think I'll just add it to this lavender color, this lavender flower, just for some fun. And I might water it down a lot and even add it to these kind of whitish flowers too. All right, there we go. There's our little painting. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you soon.